Because this is the newest book.
That is my newest book. There are some really fun recipes, and a lot of times people associate grains. There are two bad things: carbohydrates and then gluten intolerance. But there's a remarkable number of grains that are gluten-free, including rice, sorghum, millet, and corn.
Right.
So there's actually a lot of really cool, like, vegan, gluten-free recipes included in the book.
So here's the thing. Let me ask some questions, because I'm ignorant in this because I typically don't eat my food's food. But
I understand that. Yes.
Rice, because, I want my food to have food.
Right.
Tastes like grass.
Right?
So I don't want to eat it, I'm just joking. If it's in Mexican food, I eat it pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
You can make rice flour.
Yes, but it is still gluten-free unless
Right.
you add wheat or barley or oats.
Well, my question is, if making pasta is really simple.
Yes.
So if you could get rice flour, maybe producing your own rice, getting your own millstone,
Yes.
getting your own little small creek that would in turn turn the millstone.
Turn it.
Make your own flour.
I use a
then
drill.
you can make your own pasta, which is the cheapest thing at the grocery store.
I use a drill bit, a modified drill bit,
Okay.
to actually get the chaff off, and that part is called threshing. And in rice, it's referred to as dehulling. And then you use a box fan to winnow it. So you winnow away the chaff, and what you're left with is the raw seed that you can then either cook, like in that form, or grind into flour and then use.
That's awesome. So
yeah.
have you ever made your own pasta with your own rice?
Yes.
That's badass.
I
That's how much
I
of a
have
boring
my
white
own-
guy I am. I'm like, that's badass, bro.
I make my own flour and now started brewing my own beer from the barley that I grow.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Because a lot of
it's 0 kilometer.
yeah,
That's
because
the
a lot of
goal.
guys, that home brew,
It's
microbrew
huge.
thing is a big industry.
Most people are having to import their barley predominantly from Washington or Idaho. But barley actually is a really beautiful, easy crop to grow during a cool season. So even like here in Missouri, you could sow barley next week when the temperatures are a little warmer, and
Right.
you would end up with a harvest.
Here's the thing about Missouri. This part of Missouri, I'm gonna throw this out.
Yeah.
It was 26 degrees on the 28th of April last year.
That is okay.
Okay.
So barley is a cool season grain, and it will dry when temperatures start to exceed 90. So that's why you would grow it as like an early spring crop or even a fall crop that goes dormant through the winter. And then you're harvesting really like when real summer hits, like from the calendar, like the summer solstice.
Right.
Summer.
Right. Okay.
And then when your barley is done, that's when you grow rice. Rice is frost. Yes, you have to grow it in the frost-free months. It's a tropical plant, so it'll die with frost. So you always start rice like usually early June, and then it grows, all summer long, and then begins to set seed as the days get short. It's actually a day-length trigger that causes the rice plant to flower.
So how long would it take for our rice to get from producing a seed to harvest?
It's usually 3 weeks.
That would be perfect.
Yeah,
So what you were saying,
So
September-ish.
if you plant in June, you would likely be harvesting the last part of September.
And if you forget to go get the seeds, you're just fighting with birds.
That's all. Yeah.
Right, because then it could be December. You can go get yourself some rice.
Exactly.
It's like a Chinese buffet kind of.
Exactly. On your back porch.
With a lot of work with the drill and a box fan and all
It's
that
an
other stuff.
authentic experience.
Sure, no,
it's never the W word.
You know what? People will probably pay you to come to your yard and then have to do that stuff.
Actually, I'm going to be doing grain classes this year. I've teamed up with a big wholesale nursery near Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay.
And he actually had a farmer plant out all of these crops. And we're going to do farm-to-table pizza classes.
See, that's.
So
how much, if I was going to make my own beer,
Okay.
how much barley do I have to grow?
So I have
How many little spots do I have to have in my landscape?
So I have one bed that dissects the middle of my front lawn. It's 800 square feet. And from that, I got 60 pints of beer.
60 pints.
Yes.
That
60
seems like
pints.
plenty.
It's pretty good. Like I like beer.
Like, you
I'm a
can't-
beer drinker, so
Right.
that was not my year's supply of beer, but it was still something pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, that I had never done before.
Right, because you could have like friends over, and that's plenty of like for everybody to be able to drink beer and like not worry about
Absolutely.
running out. Like,
And I have
60
found that actually my friends enjoy a party where I do put them to work, as long as I provide
well,
alcoholic.
free beer. Yeah, that you made in your, in your
Right?
thingy over there. Yeah, little steampunk corner.
Yeah.
Which I always thought like if you had a home brewery, it would just be like you have dials and you're watching the. Is it
It's
is it
not.
complicated?
It's actually way less of a chemistry experiment than I was hoping it would be. It was-
Good.
Yeah, it isn't nearly as intensive.
Well, cool. So I'm excited to read both of your books because I got, I'm excited, and I'm gonna have a ton of questions. So if I was gonna plant rice, would I plant rice around the same time that my botanical hydrangeas starting to push buds?
Oh,
Early June-ish?
yes.
So like around
Yes.
the time I see that, like that could be the
That's
trigger,
your trigger,
that I'm
yes.
like, oh, I need to. Yeah, I was gonna tell you about the pay it forward bed that I call it, where
Uh-huh.
like I'm just going to find these cheaper perennials, I'm gonna grow them up, I'm gonna divide them, and I was planning on putting them in a root maker pot, and then I've got that pot sunk in the ground
Yes.
and just put that in there, so that way it still gets the airflow,
Yep.
it'll still air prune,
Yep.
and then when I go to give it away,
You'll keep the pot.
I keep the pot.
Yes.
Because the pots are like $8 a piece.
And I'll tell you, they're actually really good for growing heirloom tomatoes in. Tomatoes
see that.
have a lot of root problems,
Uh-huh.
and the root maker pots are a game changer.
Like
well, they're more expensive than traditional trays, but they also last for decades.
Right, he said 15 years
Yeah.
or something like crazy
So
like that.
it's one of those things that a lot of times the nursery industry doesn't always equate like long-term expenses. Or like,
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of wholesale tree and shrub growers that don't understand cost per square foot of their land, and like knowing like
Well,
your
a lot of
crop house
retailers
is
don't understand
more
that either.
expensive, and
Right.
so they don't always understand. I think they will probably become more popular as cheap plastic prices have risen. It's a game changer for like cornice and cercis production.
Sure. And what about just the home grower that? So I have this thing that I do, and I've been doing a long time, where I just kind of do like this localized pot and pot system. So
Uh-huh.
I'm going to pull this echinacea out, right? Because we're done. We don't want any more echinacea in here. But I've got this little seedling
Right.
that now is producing a little flower. So what I'll do is I put this. My mom and I were doing this back when I was a kid, and we pull it out, and I just buried a 1 gallon pot. Like
Okay.
I just planted it and I just sunk it right in the ground.
Right.
So it didn't compromise the look of my landscape. It kept growing,
Yes.
right? And then when somebody came over for dinner or something like
And
that,
you wanted to give them a plant.
I would give them a plant, and I
Right.
would just pull it right out of the garden. Well, now I got a
Yes.
1 gallon hole,
Yes.
and then it's just a matter of popping
something
some
new in.
Monarda or something,
Exactly.
whatever else I wanted to do. Which that's another love-hate relationship is Monarda.
I've stopped even bringing Monarda up in programs because it's so polarizing. It's like,
It's like, what side are you on?
and I'm just like,
There's a lot of that in the plant
oh
people.
gosh,
There's a lot of that.
Yes.
Okay, so keep on with Monarda because I interrupted.
Well, no, I mean, it's like, it's an important plant ecologically.
Sure.
There are new varieties that have better mildew resistance
Uh-huh.
that don't run as vigorously, but put it in a spot where you're not trying to micromanage it.
I can't keep it alive.
Oh, you can't keep it alive. Oh.
I think I'm watering too much.
I bet, because it
I have
is.
drip.
It really is a prairie plant.
Right.
So yeah,
So it's like,
put it out in Foodscape Zone 3 that gets you the
Right.
least amount of water.
I don't really have, everything is, the yard is getting very small,
Right.
Because what I like to do is I like to prep beds. So I will go ahead and I will mulch an entire bed and just get that fungal-rich environment going.
So.
You ever do any grafting? Is that anything that you've ever gotten into?
Yeah, well, so I specialize in tree and shrub production,
Right.
and I did a lot of woody grafting.
Sure.
I don't have the right finish environment for tomato grafting. You need to have kind of a dark but warm and humid, basically encasement. for at least 3 to 5 days for the graft union to take. But
so if I pinched a tomato in my armpit
and kept
for
it there
5 days,
for a couple of days, yes.
it would probably be okay.
You might actually, yes. You
Right.
might be successful.
I would just shower like this.
Right.
Like the one side. Because that intrigues me. Bonsai intrigues me. There's other things that intrigues me, and I like one of the things that you said resonates with me. It would definitely resonate with my audience because I constantly am saying, and I hope the sound and everything works on this, because if it doesn't, it's...
Oh, well, at least we had a fun conversation.
Yeah, we just shot the bowl for an hour. But is that if you mitigate the amount of maintenance that you have, my thing is they're going to do other projects. They're going to take like, and I mentioned this, my very first YouTube video, I said my fear is that if your garden gets bigger than your rotator cuff,
yes,
right, then you're not going to take on other projects like growing food,
right,
bonsai, air layering,
right.
And I was just really going through the bucket list of things that I went through my head.
Yeah.
And so for me, in order to play with that, or even for that matter, to be able to do a YouTube channel, I have to mitigate the amount of landscape I do.
Yes.
And that's what. So, what was the pre-emergent that you, or the
cornmeal gluten.
Cornmeal gluten.
Yeah, and you can find it, like most farm stores sell it. I know Tractor Supply usually has it in stock in the spring. It's definitely best applied in spring.
Okay.
Because it's primarily going to work on warm season weeds.
Okay.
And it's really good on crabgrass.
Because I'm going to have to. So let's say I start incorporating some more edibles into my landscape. I'm going to have to transition from my current pre-emergent, which is Snapshot or Treff. Snapshot is Treffland, but it's got whatever that other thing is.
Right.
So I would need to transition from, just for my own. I know there's some amount of active ingredient in Treffland that they won't find it in the fruit, and so they were like, this is safe for using. But I'm just saying, a general rule of thumb is I would probably not, because I'm feeding this to my kid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's not that you can't use pre-emergents. It's
right.
A lot of what I teach on my YouTube channel is how to direct seed and cover ground.
Right. Well, that's why I shook my head so vividly when you said
that's not going to work. Well, you can't use a pre-emergent and then direct seed because it's going to prevent the seed from germinating.
I've got an area in my back where I do a lot of do all my sunflowers, and that's because I don't do pre-emergent back there.
Right.
Just more stuff in the shed.
Right.
Yeah.
It is more stuff in the shed. Is that not true? People always look at me funny, but I feel like that is an accurate assessment. Like, people buy deer spray and then they put it in the shed and they never apply it, and then they complain. And I'm like, well, did you actually put the deer spray out, or did you just look at the bottle?
They're like, that didn't work.
Right.
Like,
Is it because you didn't put it out?
Kind of got to use it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that ab master.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have it, but yeah.
Through osmosis, I didn't get a six-pack.
But
I stared at it for hours while I was watching Yellowstone. I was just looking at that ab master.
It was right there.
Yeah. I was just saying, it makes bathroom trips a little easier when you've got more fiber, is kind of what I was saying.
That is 100% accurate.
Right,
yes.
and that's, you can't live on pizza and
or you shouldn't.
And Mexican food alone.
Right.
Well, not for long.
Right.
So now I'm getting to the age where I can't just rely on Spartan genetics to keep me going. You know what I mean? Up until about 38, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted.
I always
and then
say
after that,
I've reached the age now where I sleep wrong and I feel paralyzed.
Yeah, I actually pinched a nerve in my neck.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
I have a shoulder injury from sleeping wrong. So
sleeping hard.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, in your 20s, somebody would be like, wait until you sleep wrong. You're like, sleeping?
What are you talking about?
When I was in the military, I just passed out under trees. You know what I mean? And now I'm sleeping wrong. So it's just kind of a silly...
And suffering. Suffering from it.
Right. Not sleeping wrong, you're going oh, I'm good. But literally $500 later, I'm still going to the chiropractor because of sleeping.
Yeah. I'm actually you're describing my life right now.
Sure.
I just spent $125 on muscle relaxers from the room over there. So, like rub on.
Hey, Brie, that's a rum
That's
place.
the rum place. No, there's another place.
Oh, there's a, okay. Yeah.
Oh, right
That's
on.
the silver lining.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what they tell you in church is that you're supposed to, like, if you're having a problem with somebody, you're supposed to, like, look internally.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're all about really self-deprecation
Exactly.
in religion, where it's always our fault.
Well, I was raised Catholic, so yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys are definitely guilty of something.
Endless guilt.
Right. So what else was I going to ask you? So, no-till?
I'm a no-tiller.
Okay.
I
I've kind of like recently in a couple years gotten into
my
the
approach, like particularly for all these grains are really what started it. We use a push mower, a really cheap push mower, and then all that biomass decomposes in place.
Right.
And that makes a big difference for the organic matter being added because we all have compost piles, but do we really use the compost to its fullest? And as a home composter, does it get hot enough to actually kill off weed seeds? And
Right.
I know mine doesn't. When I spread my compost, I end up putting thousands of tomato plants inadvertently everywhere that I
Right.
put that.
Yeah.
So I've been really trying to focus on how I can improve my very sandy soil with on-site organic matter. So I'm not
Right.
bringing anything in. I'm using the plants that I grow to compost in place.
Sure. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's basically what farmers do. It's just that we haven't had a lot of conversations or books written about how to convert that to a residential landscape.
Sure.
Like we understand farming, but how do we apply that to a small suburban lot?
But you even have guys teaching no-till to farmers.
Yes.
And then they're inoculating the seed as they put it in the ground with their
Yes.
little drip, one drip per corn.
Yeah.
This is the bioreactor, the guy that created the bioreactor.
Oh, no.
It's a big like cattle panel.
Yeah.
And then it's got the perforated ADS
Oh, yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy that designed that, I've been watching him. I don't have his book.
I'm gonna
Do I have his
Google
book?
stock this.
Teaming with
Teaming with microbes?
microbes and then teaming with bacteria. So I have both of those. That's not the guy.
Okay.
But he talks. I'm not going to be able to use this because I can't figure out who the guy was.
Well,
Or maybe I could just in text to make fun
Yeah.
of myself because I forget because I do that a lot.
Right. I do too.
I'm very hard on myself.
I sometimes am like, oh, I lost the botanical name. I'll shout it out 8 hours later.
Well,
No one cares.
now for me, I have a love-hate relationship with botanical names. And here's why. I'm going to throw this out.
Because I am a binomial nomenclature.
I know you like
lover.
the botanical names, and
Yes.
I just because once you understand Latin and you understand, okay, so hydrangea, hydro, water.
Yep. You
Vessel?
understand a function of the plant through the botanical name.
Right.
And often the species
So
will...
what's Drangia? Is that vessel?
Vessel,
Okay.
yes.
So you just basically
Water vessel.
And I'm going to tease you. Are you okay for a second?
Of course I am.
So you just basically told me it's the water vessel.
It is. It
How
requires...
does that tell me? In a dead language, by the way. You did it in a dead
It
language.
requires a ton of water, is what a hydrangea requires.
I thought it was the shape of the flower looked like a...
No. I think it's more to do with the amount of water it absorbs.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, in theory, all the good weed growers should come. But,
Was that a guy? The when you were pointing out his...
come back.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, man.
He is the cannabis man.
Okay.
Yes.
So I made this, I don't know if I necessarily made a joke, but I definitely made a reference to the fact that, like,
I know what these supplies are for.
weed guys are dialed in.
Yeah, they are. Really dialed in.
Like, if you talk to one of them, they know what mycorrhiza is.
Yeah.
They know the difference between ecto and ecto and endo.
They're like
they're
really into different mineral compositions.
I know.
And it's crazy. And they're really in tune with the plant cycle. And,
Sure.
They completely
like
change
when
the
to introduce
nutrients.
phosphorus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell people that all the time. It's like, you're gonna have an issue with some sort of chlorosis. There's something going on. You can go to your local hydroponic place, and you know what they're gonna have? They're gonna have something to fix that,
immediately.
Most likely organically too,
Yes,
which is
yes.
crazy.
Well, the difference is they have a better economy related to their yield than ornamentals.
Yeah, because you cannot buy a marijuana plant for $2.25,
No.
and $1.85 if you buy
And
100.
you
Because that's how I buy
can't
daily.
buy an ounce of flowers.
No, it's a very, very profitable plant. I would assume.
Compare weed to flower industry.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Who
think-
has a better profit margin?
Sure.
Technically, they're both cut flowers.
They are technically
The consumable part of cannabis is derived from the flower.
right because it's trying to attract pollen.
Yeah,
You're not smart enough.
ergo,
Ergo,
yeah.
it is a flower.
It is.
Relatively.
Well, it literally is the
So
sexual part.
Is that the definition of a flower? Is if it's there to attract a pollinator or because
Well, the definition of a flower would be to have sexual parts present, so anthers and stamens.
right.
And the bud of a cannabis plant is the female flower.
Right.
Because remember,
Sure.
there's male and female
Like
plants.
olives.
Correct.
Right.
So,
We've had that lesson, guys. We've had the male-female lesson.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that's why I was joking about getting canceled, because I had to talk about that.
plants
I'm
are
like, this
more
might be
defined.
my last episode,
They're
'cause I
more
have-
defined than people
Right.
in many ways.
Yeah, plants aren't really open for interpretation.
We came to fight.